Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. Tonight we present two separate political debates that should reveal the sharp differences and the deep emotions over two of the top stories in the news. In part two, we present a debate over the Delhi government's decision to ban odd and even number cars on alternate days for 15 days in January. But first, the claim that the National Herald case is a political vendetta. Is Rahul Gandhi right in making this charge, or is he both wrong and also guilty of questioning the sincerity and credibility of the judiciary? Joining me now is his lawyer in the National Herald case, Rajya Sabha MP and Congress spokesperson Abhishek Singhvi, and the additional Solicitor General Pinky Anand. Mrs. Anand, let me start with you. Rahul Gandhi says that this is a political vendetta. Secondly, it's being directed from the Prime Minister's office. And when you look at the facts, that the case has been brought by Subramaniam Swamy, a national executive member of the BJP. And Kapil Sibal says that Swamy is the power of attorney holder of the BJP to persecute and prosecute the Congress. Don't the facts suggest that this is in fact a deliberate, conscious attempt to target the Gandhi family and therefore it is a vendetta?
Karan, I find that a rather absurd kind of statement, but it's understandable that they will make these kind of pleas. Now that they've been caught red-handed and are being prosecuted for this situation, obviously they will cry something or the other, and crying political vendetta seems to be the easiest solution in such a circumstance. Please do remember, Karan, this case commenced way before the Prime Minister was a Prime Minister, and I think the judicial process is taking its way. I think if they had something more to say, they would have probably waited for the trial to try and demonstrate what is right or wrong, rather than to be crying about wolf all the time. I mean, everybody has seen through this kind of
let me put that.
The judicial process stands for a fair amount of credibility here.
Let me put that point to Abhishek Singhvi. Abhishek Singhvi, Rahul Gandhi has deliberately, loudly and repeatedly claimed this is a political vendetta. But the case was first accepted and the summons were first issued by a trial court. Your attempt to quash the case was rejected by the Delhi High Court. When two courts are directing matters, how on earth can Rahul Gandhi claim this is a political vendetta?
First of all, it is of course a legal case and we are taking legal recourse. It is also a political vendetta case for the following reasons. If I or Kapil Sibal or Ghulam Nabi Azad was to file a complaint against Prime Minister Modi, you would all be shouting, including my friend Ms. Anand, that it's a political vendetta. Why pray when the Central Committee member of the BJP, whom the BJP does not disown, Subramaniam Swamy, there is no distancing from what he has done, when he files a case, he initiates prosecution, is it not political vendetta? Thirdly, Subramaniam Swamy has spent his entire life trying to prosecute and persecute the Congress. He has been and is in the BJP and in several other opposition parties. The initiation of such cases, and that is what we are saying, which the BJP is deliberately misrepresenting to you as saying that we are saying that the judiciary is politicized. What we are saying is the initiation of such cases by such persons is clear specks
let me interrupt you
not
there.
the judges.
No, let me interrupt you there. Because when you talk about initiation of... No, let me interrupt because you've got your facts wrong. You talk about the initiation of such cases, but you've got your facts wrong, because this case was initiated in January 2013. That was 16 months before the BJP came to power. To call it a political vendetta would have meant that Subramaniam Swamy was an astrologer and somehow had been able to foresee that the BJP would win victory. More importantly, and this is the critical fact you've forgotten, that in January 2013, Swamy wasn't a BJP member. He joined the BJP 7 months later. So how then does it become a political vendetta for which the BJP is responsible? Leave aside, as Rahul Gandhi says, the PMO.
I hope you will give me time for an answer shorter than your question. You have got your facts wrong, not me.
Provided you get your facts right.
The date of filing a complaint is irrelevant for political vendetta.
So you talked of
vendetta arises.
You talked of initiation, not me. You brought up the point.
First you finish, Karan, I'll wait.
I finished. I'm simply correcting your point. You talked of initiation, and therefore the date of filing becomes relevant.
Right. Conceding that you're always correct, let me now complete my point, if you don't mind. Filing of the date of complaint is irrelevant for political vendetta. Political vendetta arises from the character of the person, the affiliations to whom he belongs. Secondly, and most importantly, Dr. Swami himself has repeatedly on your channels stated, not yours but on channels, that it was he who went to the ED, got the ED changed so that the ED has issued a fresh notice. That is, now he is using and misusing the instruments of government. He has himself said that Katoch was changed at his instance. Is that not political vendetta? Thirdly, when you cut me down the last time, I was trying to say, it is part of a series of events running from Vaghela to Veerbhadra Singh to Sachin Pilot and Gehlot, and now this. We never did anything like this.
Well, just a
this
moment.
smacks of a continuous chain of political vendetta.
If I heard your answer correctly, the charge of political vendetta hinges critically on the claim that Subramaniam Swamy made that he went to the ED or the PMO and got the ED changed. Ghulam Nabi Azad made this point on television at some length this afternoon. However, the ED was changed several weeks or months ago. It didn't happen recently. But the charge of political vendetta was made hours after the Delhi High Court rejected your charge, your attempt to get the case squashed. Therefore, if the political vendetta dates back to the ED being changed, you would have made that point weeks, months ago. You didn't. You only made it after the Delhi High Court dismissed your attempt to quash the case, and therefore it was a direct reference to the Delhi High Court. Your own chronology proves the case against you.
Wrong again on all facts. Wrong again on all facts. Check up the papers.
Order
Many
doesn't
of us,
reflect this
including
argument.
me, have said that
Even
this
the High Court argument doesn't reflect this.
Can I
Yes,
reply?
go ahead. And then
I
I'll go
thought
to
you
Mr.
asked me a
Anand.
question.
Finish.
I thought you asked me a question.
Go ahead.
The record will show that Congress repeatedly laughed at the fact that Swamy is admitting that he has influence in appointing and disappointing EDs. We have specifically taken the point then. Secondly,
Laughing
it's the overall
calling
pattern.
it a political
Here is
vendetta.
a person.
Laughing is cocking a snoop.
Of course we have called it. We have called it from beginning, but it was under a stay of the court. Therefore, it was not a live case. When the case has now become live, we have repeated the charge. It is now more graphically stated because you have in between instances from Madras of Chidambaram to Gujarat of Vaghela. These are instances happening every week.
Let me take up those instances with Mrs. Anand. Mrs. Anand, the real charge perhaps is not that the ED was manipulated by the government, because at that time, as I keep insisting, Congress didn't make the claim of political vendetta, they've only made it now. The real charge, as Ghulam Nabi Azad pointed out, is that you have brought a range of cases targeting a whole lot of Congress leaders on what he calls are flimsy grounds. These include charges and cases against Chidambaram, Veerbhadra Singh, Vaghela, Ashok Gehlot, Praneeth Kaur. But when there are serious charges against people like Sushma Swaraj, Vasundhara Raje Scindia and Shivraj Singh Chauhan, your government has chosen to turn a deliberate blind eye. To many, this looks like deliberate targeting. This looks like deliberately picking on Congress leaders.
Karan, let me just say this one thing, and it should answer probably the entire panorama of what you are asking. The question is in this case, is the two people who are accused and who are crying political vendetta, is it a prima facie case that they are guilty of cheating or of criminal misappropriation? If it is, whether you can talk about other overtones, whether you talk about the entire world, it would not make any difference. What is on trial here today, and the people who are facing trial are facing the trial on the charges against them. If they stand for whatever it is worth, it is that issue that is relevant. Whether somebody else should be tried, not tried, has been tried, will be tried, has been left off, I don't think it goes anywhere in that territory.
Can I point something else to you? Both Associated Journals and Young Indian are Section 25 companies. None of their shareholders, therefore, can receive dividend or money. That money can only be used for previously declared and accepted charitable purposes. Therefore, the very claim that there is cheating and fraud or misappropriation of funds, and that's the ground on which Swamy moved the court, that very claim is highly questionable. That's why many people say, in addition to being vendetta, this is a case being brought on very flimsy grounds.
Karan, are you and I going to decide this across the screen today, or is the court going to try that on a trial? One. Secondly, I think let us get a little clarity on criminal law. As far as criminal law is concerned, what would or would not happen to the money that Young India has wrongfully misappropriated is not really the material issue. The fact that there has been wrongful gain by one particular group based upon a conspiracy, the fact that there has been a wrongful loss to a group of people is itself enough to constitute cheating. And as far as misappropriation is concerned, entrusted money which is converted to its own use in whichever fashion, whether it benefits X, Y or Z, that is another issue. That itself is a crime. If you look up 406 and 420 of the IPC, I think those answers are pretty well met. Rest of it is for the trial to decide. I think we are kind of prejudging the issue. Everybody is crying horse about the current state where you have two courts confirming a position where they've been summoned. They've been summoned like people of this country. We have the rule of law which says if somebody is guilty, they will be brought to the book, but by a trial. In the meantime, you can't cry horse and say, you can't try me. You can try everybody in this world, whoever it might be, however mighty he might be.
Okay, let me take that point to Abhishek Singhvi. Let me put it like this, Mr. Singhvi. If this is really a vendetta, as Rahul Gandhi keeps saying, then surely you would have gone to the Supreme Court as your own side was suggesting you would on Monday evening, but you didn't. And the reason you didn't do that is because you feared that the Supreme Court would not grant you relief because two earlier courts have held there is a prima facie case to answer. And the fact that two courts have come to that conclusion suggests that whatever the motives and intentions of the man who brought the case may be, there is still a case to answer. And that's the point you can't escape from.
I'll answer your question first, but I hope you'll give me time to deal with the legal issues, because that's the real issue. That's what she has answered. First of all, as far as Supreme Court is concerned, I don't know who has given the idea to the press that we will or will not go to the Supreme Court by a certain date. We have 90 days to go to the Supreme Court. Technically, the 90 days have not even started. We can go any time because we don't have an official certified copy, but we have enough time to go and we're not ruling out going there. When is our decision? Second, we are not going to get a reversal of these orders from the political class. So obviously, it doesn't need gainsaying, it has to go to Superior Court. Thirdly, it is my statement before the magistrate that we are eager and anxious to come before you immediately and urgently. Give a date of your choice and convenience and choice of Dr. Swami. So we respect the law. But the fourth point is very important. I have not heard a single answer from Dr. Swami or from any lawyer of the BJP or otherwise. That's the question, Karan. National Herald and the 2,000, 20,000 or 50,000 crore property it owns continues to be owned by one entity, Associated Journal. There is no transfer of ownership. It owned it then, it owned it now. There is no transfer,
just a
no
moment.
change.
Just a moment. Associated Journal is now 99% owned by Young Indian.
Was controlled.
But Associated Journal is now a wholly owned company of Young Indian.
Give me the
That's
credit.
the point you're not finished making.
Give me the credit that I know a little more about the case than you do. Allow me to answer. The earlier Associated Journal was owned by the Congress party, its sympathizers and shareholders and office bearers. Today, Associated Journal is owned by Young Indian.
Precisely.
Which in turn has shareholders, the same Congress party office bearers.
78%, 76% of those shares are with the Gandhi family. That's the point you're forgetting. 76% with the Gandhi family. That dominance wasn't the case earlier. That dominance wasn't the case earlier.
You're wrong. It was. Earlier it was held by office bearers of the Congress, Motilal Vora, Oscar Fernandez and several other shareholders. Today it is held by a Section 25 company which owns Associated Journals, not the Gandhis. Now if the Gandhis are shareholders of Young India, they can't get a penny as salary, as perks. If they dissolve Young India, the corpus of Young India goes to another Section 25 company.
Oh, so no, hang on a second, as the Delhi High Court judge pointed out, Section 8 of the 200 and 2013 Companies Act permits a Section 25 company to be made into another type of company. The judge raised that issue in his judgment. Therefore, there is now a real possibility that a Section 25 company can become a normal company and the actual ownership can then be used by the shareholders for their own personal purposes. The Companies Act 2013 makes that possible.
Karan, can I?
So concede you.
Karan, can I come across here to
Karan,
say one
so
thing?
you first concede. No, let me complete, please. Please let me complete.
First of all, you is not coming anywhere near the point.
Please let me have my say.
Why was this entire transaction done?
Please. Please don't interrupt me. This is not fair, Karan. This is not fair at all.
Go ahead and finish your say.
You put a question. Yes. First point you concede is Section 25 company the corpus can't be dissipated.
I made that point myself in a question to Mrs. Anand. I don't have to concede it. I made that point myself.
Now Section 8 point, you are reading the para selectively. The same para says that on a complaint filed 2 years ago, on a summoning order passed 1 year ago, when Section 8 was not born, it is completely irrelevant to any summoning order or any criminal case. Any first year law student knows that, and the order says that.
But it now exists.
But it
now exists.
Say,
it was brought into the Companies Act change brought by your government.
This is not fair. You are interrupting me. This is not fair at all. I think you have a weak case to argue, which is why you are not allowing me to speak.
I'm glad you think it's a weak case, because that will strengthen your case in court.
Judge, not at all. You are interrupting me time and again.
Let me bring in Mrs. Anand.
The same judge, after saying in the first para that in the same para that Section 8 should not apply, will not apply, goes on to say, however, the Section 8 point raised by Subramaniam Swamy is a matter of concern, after saying in the previous lines that of course it may not apply because it's a 1.5 year
You made your
complaint.
point. Abhishek Singhvi, I want to now bring in Mrs. Anand, because I think she should have a chance to speak as well. Mrs. Anand, if it's not a political vendetta, then how do you account for the fact that the most cogent case against the Gandhis has been repeatedly made by Arun Jaitley, the finance minister, when he keeps arguing that tax-exempt money meant strictly for only political purposes has now been wrongly used for commercial purposes. He's made that point not once, but repeatedly on television and over a period of 5-6 months. Doesn't this prove that if he's the most cogent person making the most cogent argument against the Gandhis, it is a political vendetta, because he's not even connected to the case, supposedly?
I'm sorry, Karan. This is again a rather strange statement to make, that just because there is a statement made by a minister, that is necessarily a political vendetta. Why should, when there is a question of corruption, when there's a question of cheating, when there's a question of misappropriation, is it not legitimate for any public office to raise their voice on the subject? And if you look at the transaction, Karan, I think we're going a little way off, and Dr. Singhvi is trying to justify by saying X funds remain almost in the same fashion, they can't be diverted. You have the transfer of funds from A company to B company for no foreseeable reason in a completely contorted manner after the business of the newspaper is closed down. The debts of Associated Journals could have been paid off back to the Congress party without any difficulty, but it's assigned, and with another 50 you transfer the equity in the hands of Young India, which is again owned by the people concerned. I mean, these are the facts on record as they stand and demonstrated by the judgment. Now, why is anybody crying hoarse on the issue to say the money could not be diverted or the money could not go? Cheating and misappropriation do not require that ingredient. Neither is motive relevant, Karan. I don't think Dr. Singhvi is appreciating one fact, irrespective of the motive. For a moment, let's just leave that aside. It isn't. That's another matter.
Nobody has talked of motive.
Are they guilty of a certain transaction which amounts to cheating or misappropriation? So the question of whose motive, what motive, who launched it, somebody
the problem with the concept of cheating is someone has to be cheated for cheating to happen. You can't cheat in the abstract if no one is the loser. Now, who's the loser here? You can't identify it.
No, again,
even the judge couldn't. The judge, if I recall Judge Gore's judgment, he potentially talks about shareholders of AJL who could have benefited but didn't. If the assets AJL owns had been sold, they would have got money. But none of them have complained. And the truth is, Judge Gore doesn't even know who they are.
Please. But Karan, I think you are overjumping the issue. You are assuming as if this is a final judgment. This is a judgment on Dr. Singhvi's clients coming forth and asking for quashing of the summons. The trial has to happen, a final determination. At this stage, what you require to see is the prima facie case. The trial court judges found it. The High Court has sustained that. Now, why are we going into intricacy as if we are going to be the adjudicators at this point of time?
The basic point is missed.
We're back on air. We're continuing briefly with our story. Unfortunately, Mrs. Anand, the Additional Solicitor General, has left, but I believe Abhishek Singhvi is there with me. Abhishek Singhvi, I want to end by putting one critical question to you, and it's a question to do with the claim made by Rahul Gandhi that this is a political vendetta. It was made the day after the Delhi High Court dismissed your attempt to have the case squashed and asked you instead to appear before the trial court. And to many it looked as though what Mr. Gandhi was doing was to suggest that the courts are working at the behest of the BJP and the government, and therefore clearly Mr. Gandhi was attacking the credibility and sincerity of judges. How do you escape from that conclusion?
I can't help how individual people formulate it, but I have since yesterday and day before and today at least 10 times said, and several other people have said, that there is a political angle to it and there is a legal angle. We have never once remotely hinted or suggested that there is a political angle as far as judges are
Except you made the claim of political vendetta hours after the Delhi High Court rejected your attempt to get the case quashed.
You've already...
And you didn't do it, and you didn't do it, and you didn't do it when the ED was changed, and you claim manipulation at the political level happened, because that was weeks and months ago.
I told you 10 times that we then raised it, we then objected that Mr. Swami is bragging, that he's misusing the instruments of government. It's on record, and we said it again. And more importantly, Karan, the pattern, consistent pattern which we have found by this government has validated what we are saying. We are finding it every day. The CBDT says we had nothing on Chidambaram and his son, but the entire rumor mongering and leaks
You made that point as well earlier. You made that point, and I put it to Pinky Anand. The one point I wanted to put was this of chronology, that the charge was made by Rahul Gandhi just hours after the Delhi High Court rejected your attempt to get the case squashed. And many people think that he was actually suggesting, probably very clearly, that the courts are working at the behest of the government, and therefore he was casting aspersions on judges. But you answer that. I'm glad you have. People will now judge for themselves whether your answer is convincing or whether in fact the charge against Rahul Gandhi of pointing fingers at the judiciary holds. My thanks to you for joining me, and in particular for staying on over that break that we had to take for Mrs. Swaraj. Time now for a commercial break, but then a debate between the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP over the Delhi government's decision to ban odd and even number cars on alternate days in January.